What up? What up, though? What up, though? Welcome back again to another episode of All Things Behind the Scenes with your girl, Nina Payne. Thank you so much for being here. As I remind you, this show is about all things events. What happens before the event, during the event, after the event. Who are these dynamic people who actually manage the thousands of details that have to happen in order for that event to be amazing? And then we also talk about how to navigate the business of doing events, the ins and the outs and the ups and downs. We talk about all of that. And so today, however, I have a few people in the audience on the show who are going to talk about their views in some of the interviews that we've had. And so we've had some amazing interviews. And we want to have a conversation about some of the gems and the notes that were taken because they listened to these interviews. So if you have not listened to the interviews that we've had so far, please go back and listen to them. It's worth the time. And so today, we are talking about none other than the social justice woman herself, creative, curator, youth advocate, podcaster as well, photographer. She has a lot of things that she's into. And she's my friend, none other than Piper Carter.
Yay.
Come on, applause. That's what we're doing in the background. What's up behind the scenes back there in the back?
What's up?
So, ladies, first I want to introduce who's in the audience, who's in the studio, rather. I keep saying audience, but I mean studio. Who's in the studio as a part of our team. And so first I'm going to introduce Alaina. Come on, audience.
Hey.
It's a little slow on the move today. So, Alaina, introduce yourself to the people. Tell everybody what you do and how long you've been with Foundation Management.
Oh, my name is Alaina, and I am an event lead and also Nina's assistant. And I've been with Foundation Management for almost a year now.
Has it been a year?
Kids Day will be a year.
Dang. Wow. Okay.
But I did do an event back in the back. We talked about that. But
back in the day.
back in the day, yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Loving it.
So our other guest is Najah. Najah, tell everybody how long you've been with us and what you do.
Well, I'm Najah. I've been with Foundation Management for almost a year as well. It'll be a year in May. And I am one of the event managers or event coordinators for the team.
And so thank you guys for being here. We talk a lot about team, and it's super important for me to say thank you publicly because you guys really make me look good. And so as far as the company and the growth, we would not have been able to grow as well and as fast without your cooperation and your input and your teamwork and your commitment and your dependability and all the things that you guys bring to the table. So thank you. Give them a Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
So this is about our after show in regards to Miss Piper Carter, right? And so we had an amazing interview. And so Alaina, first, give me a couple of tips or one tip that you heard from her that you want to share with the audience.
Man, first of all, I loved Piper's interview. And but curating your vibe, like that's going on the wall somewhere. Because
you gotta explain, what does that mean to
I
you?
mean, she of course talked about it in the aspect of her business and curating a vibe in her space and what to allow and not allow. But I feel like that just resonated because, like, I'm curating a vibe in my life, curating a vibe in my home, curating a vibe in all the spaces, these spaces of my life. Thank you, Dej.
Okay.
Yes, curating the
Right.
vibe in all of the spaces. So for me, that had a.
And why do you think that's important?
I mean, because I think a lot of times we just kind of we think that things can just happen to us. Like things just happen and we just let life happen. But we forget that a lot of that is intentional. Like you have to be intentional about what we allow. Like, am I going to allow this person to keep disrespecting me or allow this thing to keep happening? Like we have a lot more control than what we think. So that is why that really resonated, because it's like, yeah, she controls her space, but I control my space. I control everything, all
Yeah,
the things.
you are in control, and being
Mm.
intentional is so super important. I love that. That was a great comment from her. And so let's move on because we have so many things to cover. Najah, so you listened to and watched Piper Carter's interview. What did you take from it?
From her interview, well, first of all, I've been knowing Piper for a very long
Yeah, how
time.
long have you known
So long, I
Piper?
can't even pinpoint how long or when we met. Like I just was going through my brain, like, okay, I know I've met her there, and I saw her as a photographer, as this, as that, at 5E. So Piper has been in so many spaces. So it's like to know Piper is to love Piper for one. So
Aw, that's true.
so
That's
in
true.
her interview, what resonated with me, with knowing that she does so much, you just know like she's so knowledgeable on so many things, and to hear her say that, it's just important to be a student of life, a constant learner. She's always learning, especially now, when she started, she had these different things like agents and lawyers that took care of the business side for her. And she really didn't know too much about it, but she realized, having her own business, running her own event space, she knew it was important for her to know the ins and outs of business for herself, as a business owner, to make, it's important, make things run smoothly for her, or curate her vibe the way she wants it to be, done legally and professionally, is still her thing. So that was good.
So how do you think that that resonates with you? Are you a constant learner? Do you like how do you then master that?
Yes, for sure. In this space or any space I'm in, with the changing world, with everything going on, it's always important to stay up to date on what's going on.
Mhm.
Just when things are changing, just going back to the pandemic, that was a big thing for events. If you had an event space, that changed so much. So, like, how do you still make money when there's people not coming into your event space? So, so
Amen.
many business owners or event coordinators, we had to pivot and learn how to do things online. How do we create events online and things like that? So, that takes learning. You have to jump online and
Yeah.
get into a podcast or get into things online that's teaching you these new things. It happens so quickly, but to be able to know that you can learn and expand and grow is very important. So
Yeah, I think, we talk about, and I said this in an event that I spoke at not too long ago was like the world is on an axis and it's always changing, right? And so if you are not a part of the change, then you're a part of stagnation. So you're not willing to grow or change or move, then you wonder why you have so many difficulties. You wonder why this is the way I am and da 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 da. And so I would encourage everybody, the world is changing and you have to change with it. Does that mean learning a new skill, learning more about the area that you think there's always something else to learn, because if anybody tells you they know everything, they're lying, and the truth is not in them. So make sure that we're always constantly growing and learning, right?
Yeah.
So Alaina, you listened to, what else did you think that was important to note?
Man, going to spaces where you feel safe.
Mhm.
I mean, I think that kind of still goes back to the original point of curating your vibe, but just knowing that you're in control. Like, you don't have to go to places where you feel uncomfortable, especially as women. It's like, we don't have to.
We
You know
don't.
what I'm saying? Like,
We don't.
you control like where you go and the feel that you get when you're there. Where you gotta feel like you gotta watch your back, where you feel like where you're not safe. So yeah, that one just stood out to me too. Just being in control of where you're going and what you're doing.
And I think that's a good point too, because when I met Piper, she was, and I talk about this in the interview, she was managing an art gallery or owned an art gallery called 5E Gallery. And she was curating spaces that promoted art and culture and music. And so she had a space where new artists could come in and perform, where there weren't a lot of places to do that. And not just perform, but perform in front of a curated audience that liked arts and culture.
Yeah.
That's so rare. And then she also, on the other end of that, was an advocate of making sure that it was a safe space for women. And
Mhm.
so you can't come in there with all of the, calling everybody bitches and hoes and all of that. That was not allowed. She
No.
would kick you
Yeah.
out. And it
Mhm.
was
That's what's
so
up.
fascinating to me that she had made this space and that people knew if Piper invited you to come on the show, you better come correct. No
Mhm.
misogyny. You better not say anything of violence or anything against women or people in general. It's like she just didn't play that. And this is a whole kind of interesting space, right? Because our radio waves and internet is full of music that degrades women
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
makes people feel less than. And so to have this like light of a space that she wants to curate to make sure that people can come someplace that is safe is just it's interesting, and I was attracted to it. I
Yeah.
wanted to know who this person was and how she was doing this, and then how we can do stuff together. So that's how we actually ended up working together. Were you able to attend some of her events in the past,
Oh
Najah?
yes, yes. I went to 5E often. Like I said, I'm trying to remember, like, where did I actually meet Piper? Because I know I've seen her. We did things as a when she was a photographer or her photography space, because she's always a photographer, but in her photography space. But definitely went to 5E. And I was gonna say, just piggyback on what you were saying, just with the artists in the city, like there's so many artists that's their origin story in a sense. Like they started at 5E. They had their
Mm,
first
Wow.
start, their first show, their first gallery opening was at 5E, and everybody has the same story. Like they know Piper don't play that. Like you're not coming in there, you're not
Yeah.
disrespecting women. She's not for that, and it was never in a nasty way. Piper is the sweetest person.
mm,
Was always coming from love, so you never felt like intimidated. You never felt unwelcome. It never was like, okay, oh, you're doing this. It was, yeah, that's
mm-mm.
cool. If that's what you do, but look at it this way too. Like she gave you a different
Right.
perspective on how art can be. Like it doesn't have to just be that way.
Mhm.
That's what you're used to. Like we come into this space, like respect everybody. We respect you, but respect everyone else too. So
And
that
it was a safe place. And
was very
the
safe.
thing about it is, she also started a company called uh, We Found Hip Hop, which was first called the
Mhm.
Foundation
Mhm.
Mhm.
Women in Hip Hop. So it had some
Mhm.
iterations, and I came on
Mhm.
board as a partner when she did We Found Hip Hop, creating spaces for women to be able to be in the hip hop form without all of the other things, right? Being able
Mhm.
to be safe in a place that if your art, wasn't going to be played on the radio, and it was a more culture and creative than you might hear, it was a safe space, and still is a safe space for people to be able to do their thing. And I think what was interesting about the thing that she curated is that she had, gangster rappers and people who might normally use a lot of derogatory terms would still attend some of her events, but they
Mhm.
knew that they had to come with a different record, or they
Mhm.
had
Yeah.
to come with,
Mhm.
they couldn't
She set that
drop
standard.
the she set a
Right.
Yeah.
standard
Yeah.
and started doing these open mics all over the city, and she was doing them in bars that were open to the public. You can come in and sign up, but there were rules you had to follow,
Mhm.
and that people actually followed them. And so I don't know if you got a chance. You probably didn't get a chance to. You're a newbie. You didn't get a chance to attend any of those events yet, huh?
No, no, not
Alaina?
yet. Not
Not
yet.
yet. Oh, she's not done. So, um, any more points that you want to talk about that Piper brought up?
Just the last one was that you're only in business when you are consistent. So
Tell
as
us more about that.
as an entrepreneur, I was just like thinking about how, just consistently serving, consistently putting out quality, consistently providing value, and
Hmm.
how important that is to, sustainability of your business. Like you
Yeah.
can't have a business without that.
Yeah, I think she talked about, it's one thing to be able to, I think I asked a question about this whole idea that, they make owning a business super easy online on Instagram. You
Yeah,
got your
yeah.
Instagram pictures and you get your LLC papers and you are in business.
Right.
But there's a whole different, idea when you talk about maintaining
Hmm.
said
Mhm.
business and actually making money in
Mhm.
said business. And so she talks about just being consistent, right?
Hmm.
And, you're not in business with one sale,
Yeah.
one cell here, there, and the other. When you're able
Mhm.
to repeat that, reproduce that, and you have consistent business, now you are operating in what they call a business, right? Where there's reciprocity, right? I give, you take, blah, 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 blah. And so it was really, really good in how she explained it. And so don't forget to listen to the Piper Carter interview that we do. Life changing. The other thing I want to point out is, and Naj, you might be able to comment on this, if to know Piper is to know that she's involved in social justice.
Mhm.
And that's part of her brand. Making sure that people are treated fairly, that there are safe spaces. And she introduced me to formally to the social justice movement. And so it's been a learning for me in getting to know the people and the causes. And we did an event for the Flint water crisis, and there's all these sorts of things. And so, Najah, are you involved in social justice at all, and what type of things do you do?
As far as my take or my avenue on the social justice, I'm really into farming. So just introducing, or not even introducing, because Detroit is like #1 as far as urban gardening.
Mm-hmm.
So just getting black and browns involved in gardening and understanding how, food literally saves your life. 75% of deaths in America is caused by what you're eating. So, just understanding things like that in the black community, like black people, we get diabetes, heart disease, things like that. And it's always 9 times out of 10 based on, what you're eating or what you're not eating. So just being able to be in this space, be in that space here in the city, to teach people or just learn about gardening, putting a garden in our yards. And I know Piper has a huge garden that she started a few years ago in her own yard or in her own community. She has where she's at in her community. She has a community garden that, brings fresh fruits and vegetables to your community. So that's a big thing. I'm working on mine this year. So community gardening.
Podcast coming soon.
Yeah.
So again, thank you so much, ladies, for being a part of this after show conversation with the infamous Piper Carter. Thank you, audience, again for listening to and joining us for another episode of All Things Behind the Scenes. If you're watching us on YouTube, don't forget to follow, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to be notified of each new episode. You can also follow us on at All Things BTS Podcast on Facebook and Instagram. We welcome all comments and suggestions. So let us know what you think, how we're doing, and we'd love to hear from you. So until next time, remember that the only thing that you can guarantee about an event or life itself is that it will change. So remember to change with it. Be blessed.